I'm gonna hit record. Cool. Can you see my screen? Oh, not
Not
yet.
yet.
Uh, this. Oh,
I'm still sharing. I'm still sharing. Let me
it's
stop
all good.
sharing.
It's all good. It's all good. It'll cut yours off. Are you ready?
Hmm.
Okay. So Brandon, have you ever heard of our company before? We're called World Financial Group.
No, I've never heard of this.
Never heard
Ever.
of this? Okay, no worries. Basically, what we are is a financial services marketing company whose affiliated companies, through all of our affiliate companies, we're able to offer a broad array of financial products and services. In English, that just kind of means we're like Target or Costco, right? Anything financial solution related, we pretty much offer it. Matter of fact, if one of the things that we have, one of our mottos is "No family left behind," and I'll tell you why we say that. Um, Look, you can agree with me or not, but I feel like Brandon, one of the worst places to be in America right now is the middle class, right? Why do we
Right.
say that? Look, if you're wealthy, you're fortunate enough to be wealthy, you have access to people who can help you find tax loopholes, help your money make more money, and so forth, right? People on the other end of that spectrum, people who are less fortunate, they're getting access to government assistance, right? Now,
Right.
people in the middle class, what we're often finding is they don't make enough to participate up here, but they make too much to get any of the benefits down here. Meanwhile, they kind of squeeze, get taken care of it all, right?
Right.
So, in order for our company to actually go out there and fulfill that mission of no family left behind, we actually conducted market research studies and we identified three major problems that are happening in today's marketplace. Okay. The number one problem that we're seeing is people in general have poor savings habits, right? It's like not that because they don't know how, it's just because they don't truly understand how important it is to save, right? Like if
Mhm.
you were to ask a room of 100 people, how do you lose weight? Everyone says eat right and exercise, but still half the people are still like out of shape, right? Like
Mhm.
everybody's heard save 10% of your income or have 3 to 6 months set aside for a rainy day. But
Right.
even though we know it, not everyone applies it.
Not everyone does it.
Exactly. So let me give you an example. Like, you work right now, for this thing called a paycheck, right? Just like most Americans, right?
Right. Correct.
But before you actually touch that money on your paycheck, Brandon, isn't there really already a long line of people waiting to get their hands on your money before you?
Yes.
Yeah, who do you think is that first person in line?
Uncle Sam.
Yeah, right.
Usually.
Uncle Sam. He gets his cut, and after that, there goes like, your rent, your mortgage, your car payment, your student loans, your bills, utilities, credit cards, you
Right.
name it. Right at the very end of that line, who do you think is left standing to get whatever's left?
It's usually me.
Yeah, but if I were to ask you who the most important person in that line is, you probably would say yourself, right?
Myself. Right.
But if that truly were the case, why aren't we putting ourselves at the front of that line? And essentially, that's what savings is. Savings is a form of paying yourself first. Are you with me?
Correct.
So what we do as a company, we aim to not only educate people about how their money works, but also empower them on how to actually make their money work for them, right? So
Mhm.
what we do is we go and teach these six core financial principles. We talk about cash flow, right? We talk about
Correct.
debt management, proper protection, asset accumulation, emergency funds, and then lastly, estate preservation, right? Now, the second problem we're seeing is people are saving their money in the wrong places. Right, Brandon, have you ever heard of the rule of 72 before?
Yes.
Yeah. So in passing, it just basically describes the law of compounding interest, right?
Right.
And here's the thing. Whenever, you save and all that stuff and you invest, you also have to understand another concept that you must understand if you're an American. You got to understand how we get taxed, right? And right now, Uncle Sam can only tax us one of three ways. There's what's called tax now, tax later, and then what's called tax exempt or something that's called tax never, right? It's not that
Right.
you don't, so basically we'll go over some of these concepts as well. Now, the third problem, look, I told you the first two, right? People aren't saving enough. And the second one, people are saving their money in the wrong
In
places.
the wrong places. Right.
Well, the third one, I'm going to show you this chart here and I'm going to show you what this means, right? If you look at the average household expenditures per generation, you could see that like say, for example, me and you were in Generation X, right?
Hmm.
The average household expenditures is $91,000. So the number three problem is people aren't making enough money, right? Like my dad used to always say the American dream is, own a home, have a good job and make six figures, right?
Right.
Well, if that's your expenses, what do you have left over, right? So it doesn't matter if you're in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, you can't even if you're married, if you're a homeowner and you have kids and you make $100,000, you're still living paycheck to paycheck, unfortunately, right?
Yeah, these days, correct.
So one of the unique things about our business we actually create an opportunity for people to earn additional income, right? And how we do that is we serve one of the biggest generations. Like if you ever take a marketing class in college, right? There's this concept that you probably heard of supply and demand, right?
Hmm.
Well, this is no better illustrated by the baby boomer generation, right? That's pretty much anyone born between 1946 and 1964. And
Right.
basically every industry that these baby boomers, Brandon, have touched, they've turned to gold, right? So when baby food companies like Gerber exploded, toy companies, when they make GI Joes and Barbies, you start seeing fast food restaurants pop up all over the place in the 50s. Cars, all the classic Mustangs and Camaros in the 60s and 70s. In the 80s was the largest real estate boom in the country's history because now they started settling down and having families. Well, look what they got next in their lifespan, right? It's retirement.
Right.
And one of the reasons why we're able to serve this generation is because if you think about a baby boomer, right? So, and you know, if you know anybody like your parents or your aunts and uncles and stuff, and that fall into this generation, you know what their number one fear is right now, Brandon? It's not. I'll give you a hint. It's not death. Their number
Not
one
being able
fear,
to.
yeah, their number one fear is outliving their money, right? And if you look at the other fears right below that, not meeting their basic financial needs, Social Security being reduced, and also the high cost of healthcare, all of that is what they fear even before death. And these are all, there's one thing that's common, they're financial related, right?
Okay.
So we want to make sure we're able to help this generation retire with dignity, right? So if you think about the reason why we have a huge opportunity with our company right now is there's $78 trillion of the country's wealth is held by the baby boomers that need to get transferred to the next generation. Think about this. Every single day for the next 15 years, there'll be 10,000 people turning 65 years old. They're going to need access to that money, and we have a tool, or we have tools and resources to help them protect it and then help them retire safely, right? Now, if you ever heard of a gentleman named Robert Kiyosaki, Brandon?
I've heard of them.
Yeah, he wrote a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm sure you probably heard of that one before. And
Yes.
if you're an entrepreneur or know any entrepreneurs or business owners, it's pretty much like the first entry level book into any kind of entrepreneur journey. And he's well respected, right? But he actually wrote a secondary book, a follow-up book to that called The Cash Flow Quadrant. And basically, what he says is that if you're gonna make money in this world, Brandon, you're gonna make money in one of four ways, and he separates it into quadrants. One is you could be an employee, right? You
Right.
punch in, you punch out, or you have a salary, you work for somebody,
You
right?
work for someone.
Sometimes
Correct.
people don't want that anymore and they want to be their own boss. So they become self-employed. Don't get me wrong, you can make really good money doing both of these. Self-employed is like, a dentist, a hairdresser, a lawyer, an insurance broker, a real estate agent, right? You can make a lot of money, but one common theme that Robert Kiyosaki says for this side of the quadrant is he says they're poor.
Right.
Why? Because they're trading their time for their money, right? If
Right.
they stop working, well, so will their paychecks.
Right.
Now, the other side of this quadrant is the business owner, right? Think of a McDonald's, right? Last time you went to a McDonald's, the owner wasn't there greeting you. They're probably at home, either spending time with their family or playing golf somewhere.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
but you never see them.
exactly, right? There's a college kid and some maybe 4 or 5 high schoolers running the whole place, right?
Right. Right.
Now that's because there's a system involved. They leverage system or people to help them build their wealth. And then
Correct.
lastly, they have what's called the investor, and that's truly like the playground of the rich, right? Think of Shark Tank. They have so much money that they just need to put it in places to help their money grow. And that's what Robert Kiyosaki calls rich, coincidentally, right?
Okay.
So, like I said, our job is not to say which side of the quadrant you want to be on. There's no wrong answer. However, if you want to identify with one and make a move, we can help you do that, right? So, with that being said, that's kind of what we do in a nutshell, right? Just to kind of give you a debrief real quick. Remember how we said there's 3 major problems? Problem number one, people aren't saving enough. Problem number two, people are saving their money in the wrong places. And problem
Right.
three, people aren't making enough
They ain't
money.
making enough.
What do you think out of those 3 problems makes the most impact for most Americans today?
Out of the 3 problems, what makes the most impact is not making
Or
enough money.
what? Yeah, exactly. Right. I agree with you 100%. Right? Because if you make more, you can certainly save more and
Right.
pretty much figure out ways to save it, right? But here's the thing: the staggering statistic that we're seeing, Brandon, is that 90% of the people that we sit down with every single time, they have at least one of those problems. right? But the more staggering statistic that we're seeing is 80% of the people we sit down with have all three problems at the same time, whether they realize it or not.
So you say 80%
Yeah.
have all three, and what was the percentage for that has the last one?
So 90% have at least one, 80% have all three. So when we say no family left behind, it kind of hits a little bit different knowing that, right?
Right,
So
right.
so that's pretty much what we do. I told you it'd be a quick, Brandon. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a little survey up on the screen here. It's just a simple 2-minute questionnaire, yes or no. One, it'll give me an idea of what resonated with you the most, right? From what we discussed today. But also two, if there's areas where you would like us to help you with, we can certainly discuss that as well. Is that fair?
That is fair.
All right, that's it. I'm
Now,
gonna stop.
question.
I'm gonna stop recording.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Question, Dennis. So, first of all, when you send that survey, does that come from WFG.com, or is that something you have separately saved?
I separately saved it. I made like a jot form, like my own personal jot form, and then I'll put the link in there.
Oh, so
I'll
we're
send
responsible. Are we
yeah, I'll
responsible
send
for making those, or
yeah,
you
it's
pass
free.
those on?
So it's free. You can make yourself like I'll send you mine and you can create your own custom link. It's pretty easy. I did that like a long time ago.
Okay.
Okay.
Another question. Do you have you I'm assuming that sometime, don't get me wrong, the pitch of course is good, and it's definitely something to open up with when you're trying to open up talks. What about the people? So I think I told you this too. I do have people that are already they've already made up their mind, and they're already somewhat financially intelligent. You see what I'm saying? So they've made up their mind. They know what I do, and they're like, "Hey, dude, I just really want to get to know